Alright, so this is what I call Karplus Wrong. Basically what's happening, there's a condenser microphone which is miking up these little junk pots. The pots are connected to the live key inputs of a makey makey, and this head massager here is connected to the ground input of the makey makey. So that basically this completes a circuit whenever I hit them. Now it's going through a max patch here, a really basic max patch, which basically tells whenever I complete the circuit that key opens a different ADSR envelope, which sends a burst of the signal, an instantaneous burst of the signal, through a short resonant delay sound. So whenever I hit it, you get that sort of effect, and that's a different speed of delay from that one, and that's obviously a really slow one, and that's obviously somewhere in between. But the cool thing about the ADSRs opening and closing the way they do is that you can sort of control feedback. So that's the first part of the equation, and that signal is being sent out of the interface here and into this hardware sampler, Korg micro sampler, which is basically set up so that each time I strike one of those, it's got an auto trigger threshold that samples on one key each time there's a hit, so it'll automatically move on to the next key every time I hit one of those. And so you'll have within 36 hits, you'll have a full 3 octaves of junk samples. And then once they're in there, once that part of the performance is done, when I hit play on the sequencer here, I've preloaded MIDI patterns to trigger these keys in different random ways. Starting with a really sparse pattern and then getting busier, there's 6 of them in total, getting busier towards 4 or 5 and then dying down again. So that the whole thing can be chaotic and then come together. At one point you'll see me hit loop sample over and over again. That's because the samples sustain for the length of themselves and they don't actually close until I've hit loop sample. It's an inherent issue with this, but it actually means that the performance can be more interesting, it's more chaotic, and then it tightens up. The output of this sampler then, that's spitting out these sequences, is then going through this Nord modular patch. And basically this is a Karplus Wrong algorithm that's set up so that I can play it on the keys. But what's even better is the max stuff, the actual clattering of the junk, can be sent through this as well. So you can actually play chords with your individual hits. That has got a built-in sequencer on it, which is randomly triggering sequences of 16th note variations of whatever was played on the keys. So it's MIDI synced, MIDI clock synced. This is the master and this is the slave. So whatever's happening here, it'll always kind of be in sync, and there's various extra functionality on there so that I can destroy the sound of it if I want, or it can be really clear, whatever the performance, wherever the performance goes. I'll show the patch for this at the end, but here's a quick blast of what you would do. So that's it set sampling, and every time, if you want to have a look at the microKORG whilst I do this, you'll see that every time I hit one of these, it auto triggers the sampler and the sampling button turns red, and you'll see one of the keys move on. So that's my first key, second key, and so on. And it samples for a half note, so that you've got plenty of time if you need it in the actual performance. So I would just play right through on these until I got a full bank of samples. And the performance can be quite chaotic and it will still snap into rhythm. dynamic. So you can see it's almost at the end of the key sequence. And that's a full keyboard worth of samples set up now. So now when I hit play, you get little bits of that coming through, and also I'll set it up so that you get a wee bit of residual sound from this. So you can get things like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten these up by closing the loops on the samples. So that's me put it on the next sequence to make it sound busier. And I can bring in the random sequencer with this. Various other functionality built into this, so you can do this sort of thing. And there's filters to control it and close things down. For time there. Okay, we've got about a minute left. So just to show you, you could absolutely wreck this if you wanted by changing the tempo first of all. On this, you could slow it right down. Something which makes the Karplus Wrong algorithm go down an octave if I want as well is this key. I can get much more sinister, cavey kind of sounds out of it. And audio rate modulation on the oscillators. That's not going to work unless it's a higher rate. You get sounds like that. So it can descend into absolute chaos and feedback on itself as well. Okay, so that's Karplus Wrong. That's what it does. And just a quick thing, this is the patch that is built for the Nord here. So it's various delay lines, notes triggering it and scaling the notes in different ways, and these are just lots of different LFOs and ways of me playing with the sound. I've got the audio in from the micro sampler coming through the